This is a podcast by the News Minute, and you are listening to South Central.
Hello and welcome to South Central, a TNM podcast where we put South at the center. We are recording on the 2nd of January at 11 a.m. In today's episode, we look at the sexual assault of an Anna University student, how Tamil Nadu is shocked, and why the FIR in the case has become controversial. Then we look at the case of Indian nurse Nimisha Priya, who's been sentenced to death in Yemen. Joining us will be one of the members of the Save Nimisha Priya Council. 2024 is gone. It's been good time for some, not at all a good time for many parts of the world like Gaza. 2025 has come. It's a new year, but it's the same mission for people here at the News Minute. We want to keep on doing journalism that speaks truth to power. We want to do stories that matter. As for you, are you that person who's always complaining and whining about how the news media is not performing well? 2025 is a time to make a change. Stop complaining, stop whining. The first step is, of course, to take a subscription of the News Minute and News Laundry. We have many options starting from rupees 500 a month. So immediately after the podcast, go take a subscription. 2025, support independent media in India. Now to the podcast. Joining me in the studio is Pooja Prasanna. For those watching the podcast, she still does not have a mic, but we have given her a lapel and given her permission to look left and right during the podcast.
Yeah. Happy New Year, Dhanya.
Happy New Year, Pooja.
Nothing changes though.
Yeah. Joining us from Kerala is Leena Reghunath, our co-host of the show. Welcome, Leena, to the first podcast of 2025.
Thank you, Dhanya, and Happy New Year to all listeners.
And joining us from Chennai is senior journalist Ramya Kannan from The Hindu. Ramya is very experienced. She has been covering Tamil Nadu for many decades, Ramya?
Yeah, about 27 years to be precise.
Wow.
You look 27.
Thank you. Happy New Year to you, especially Pooja, and
Thank
Happy
you.
New Year to the rest of you as well.
She didn't say Happy New Year to me because I call her experienced.
I said to the rest of you as well.
You are part of the rest of you.
So before we go into the first topic, I just want to remind you that it's been a power-packed 2024 for us. We, of course, had Let Me Explain by Pooja. How many episodes did you finish?
I think 54 last count.
54 episodes of Let Me Explain. We had around 45 paywall stories. We also did 48 power trips.
Yeah.
Power Trip is a newsletter that Pooja, I and Shabir do on every Tuesday about the political happenings in the country. We also did What's Your Ism by Sudipta Mondal, which had almost 30 episodes. So last year, we have introduced a lot of new shows. We did a lot of episodes. So thank you for supporting us. Keep watching and keep listening.
And Shabir, 61 episodes of
Oh,
Yen
Of Yen Indra That's a Tamil show on the News Minute Tamil. Okay, so first let's go into the headlines, Pooja.
Starting with Chennai, Chennai stalker who pushed woman in front of a train is sentenced to death. Satish had pushed Satyapriya in front of a train after engaging in a tussle at the St. Thomas Mount train station in Chennai, and this was in October 2022. Next to Kerala, stage had major safety flaws. Police report on Uma Thomas mishap, the MLA who fell off the stage. You've seen the video; it was quite scary, isn't it?
Yeah, in fact, they did not have any railing on the stage. It was just a blue ribbon. The MLA thought that she was holding on to the railing and she just plunged down 20 feet.
My God.
She's on ventilator, but she's recovering is what the hospital has been saying.
Fingers crossed. Kannada news channels continue voyeuristic coverage during New Year celebrations. They film couples. The coverage last year was equally invasive. This is a story by my colleague Shivani Kava. Do check out the story. It's on our website. Shivani had recorded how the news channels covered last year as well. Nothing has changed. In fact, many organizations had come down very heavily on them. What I found disturbing was on Instagram, how many people are sharing these visuals. So clearly there's a market for this kind of voyeuristic coverage.
Ramya, does this happen in Chennai? I remember one instance where there were cameras inside a bar. But here, basically, they keep many cameras outside pubs like in Koramangala, in MG Road and in Brigade Road.
They hire extra cameras just for this.
But does it happen a lot in Chennai? I mean, in the Tamil channels?
It doesn't, Dhanya. But there was one outrageous incident last year, I think, where they filmed couples coming out of the pub without their consent, obviously. But it caused a big outrage. Cases were filed on the reporters who were involved. So I think there is some kind of, there's a modicum of respect for these kind of things. I think they've not doing it anymore. But last year was quite outrageous.
No, so the channels have built a revenue model around this. They keep live cameras. They focus on people who are basically throwing up outside the pubs,
Not
right?
just that, they zoom in on women based on how they're dressed, if they're with, their boyfriends and things like that. But may I just add, my favorite was one man, and I just want to find him. He came out and the police were trying to push him. He gave like the most awesome salute to the cop. The cop didn't know what to do with him.
I was thinking I'll puke into the camera.
Thank you. Chandrababu Naidu set to expand TDP base in Telangana to contest local body elections this year.
That's an Economic Times story.
Yeah, but I wonder what this will do if this happens to his relationship with Revanth Reddy, because they're very close. Telangana High Court wraps Hydra again for hasty evictions, questions proof of violations.
Okay, so that's it with the headlines. Now we'll move on to the first discussion. We're going to be talking about the sexual assault of a student of the Anna University. The sexual assault happened on the 23rd of December when the female student, along with her friend, had been at the university premises. A man entered the university and sexually assaulted her. He also filmed her. On December 24th is when she filed a police complaint along with the university officials. On December 25th, the accused was arrested. His name is Gnanashekaran. The police are, of course, looking at whether he's done this before. Does he have footage of other students? So investigation has been going on in many directions. This case has become controversial for many reasons. The first, of course, the question of safety of people at a place like the Anna University. The second is the fact that the FIR in this case, or the first information report, was made available for public view. Was that because of a technical glitch on the website, or was it human error? That's also being probed. The third is the language used in the FIR. The Madras High Court has come down heavily on the language used in the FIR and has asked cops, why did you have to write all these things? So we'll go into that discussion first. Ramya, when this story alert first came on our reporters group, what struck me is that this happened in Anna University. And that was shocking. So I immediately told the bureau that this will become a huge problem because it's happening within the city, inside a university campus, and people are bound to be shell-shocked.
Yeah, absolutely, Dhanya. I think, this is going to be an index case. Whether we like it or not, it is going to be an index case that will set the future, both in terms of reporting as well as police procedure. So just imagine you are in an institution that you feel safe in, and the violation happens within these safe cloisters. I mean, men and women, people derive a sense of ease from being in these places that they're familiar with. And then this, huge sort of violation happens on campus. I think it's sexual assault, which is egregious, but I think it's all the more egregious because of the manner in which it happened and the place in which it happened. So, while we talk about the safety, I think that's very important. I think, these are all large, sprawling campuses, educational institutions in Tamil Nadu, I'm sure, even in the rest of the country, have large, sprawling campuses with vegetation and all that. But nothing can be an excuse for the manner in which this girl was treated by a stranger who trespassed into her land, her area, the area she feels safe in, and then, assaulted her, sexually assaulted her. So I think no administration, no government, no university official can hide behind the fact that this happened in a remote location within the campus. Every corner of that campus must be safe for all students, both men as well as women in that studying in that college. So that's as far as safety goes. The FIR issue, I think, again, this is not the first time that we have been looking at media that have revealed the details of the victim in a sexual assault. That has been happening at regular intervals. The one thing that I like about this case is that it has become such a huge hue and cry. So the government has, the cops have filed cases against a couple of, reporters or news organizations whom they had proof had revealed the details of the FIR. The truth is that many people had access to the FIR. It's not a crime to have access to the FIR, because that is how crime reporting works. We need proof that a certain thing happened, a certain complaint was filed, and it was taken down in writing. But the fact that allow personal details, identification details of a victim of sexual assault to escape into the mainstream, I think that is something that we cannot afford to do even one more time. That's just not acceptable.
Yeah. So, something that struck me, which Ramya said, that the university is a place where everybody should feel safe, whether it's men or women, right? And it's all the time. It's not like the safety has to be till 6 o'clock or 7 o'clock. And after that, we cannot extend safety, because why are you there after working hours? It's almost reminded me of what happened in Kolkata, where again there was a lot of outrage because the person was sexually assaulted inside a campus where they're supposed to feel safe, right? Inside the hospital.
But Tanya, let me come in there and say this: that the kind of outrage is always proportional to the harm on the woman who has been assaulted. Like if you take the Delhi assault case of 2012, which we know as the Nirbhaya case and RG Kar case, it is because it led to the death of the woman, and it was so gruesome. Some of the details that happened there, the kind of outrage was national. The kind of changes that brought it about, or the kind of interventions from state and police were more more had more of an effort in them. Whereas when the assault doesn't end up in a bodily harm, we always see that somehow in a 1 week, in a 2 week time, it is forgotten and it is taken back to a place where people have an amnesia regarding the incident. Even in a campus like JNU, I remember when during my Delhi years that there used to be assault cases like this. Some of them, I remember where the victim didn't want to even complain of this assault and want to just bygones be bygone, because it is inside a campus and like Arjikar inside a hospital where people who are studying, people who are working, supposed to feel safe, but these environment doesn't allow them the liberty to be out in the night or late along with a friend of theirs, and all of those freedom that the women enjoy are used to victim blame them at the end of the case.
So that victim blaming has been going on in this case also. In fact, I did watch a couple of Tamil channel interviews where the anchors, we have to give them credit, they were intervening and saying that don't use this language. But I saw a senior counsel, I cannot remember his name, therefore I'm not using, but he kept saying that he actually said she should have been sexually assaulted. Who asked her to be there at this time, outside? So, Ramya, that's one problem, right? That victim blaming will always follow, especially because this happened at 8 in the night. Why is a student out there? But do you think that conversation has become a little lesser this time?
I don't know, Danya, but at this, I'm not sure if it's lesser, because in the initial stages there was a lot of description in media, some even mainstream, about why the girl was there and what she was doing there. And I think that is completely unnecessary to this report. What she was doing there with whom is absolutely unnecessary. It was not, even germane to the fact that she was assaulted. But I'd like to bring something else in at this point, is the culture that exists in hostels, particularly in colleges and universities in Tamil Nadu. Like the German wall is gone, but that exists in every single college. There's segregation of men and women, of girls and male students. And I think that itself is pervasive across the state. And some amount of change will have to come in there. These are not normal situations. These are not societal situations. No one lives in segregation in society. So I think it's also important for the colleges and for the schools, wherever, at least colleges, because these are all adults there, to have a more laissez-faire attitude towards mingling, co-mingling of students in campus. We know, like, outrageous stories that we've heard and we even witnessed on campuses where, women are sent one side, the boys are sent the other side, and any indication of commingling will result in a fine or in censure for the student. I think that has to change, and that is also rooted in a certain patriarchal concept. It's sort of protecting the woman. I don't know what they're protecting the woman from. They're protecting the woman from the true ways of the society. I don't think that's protection at all. So I think it's important for us to question this. I said it was an index case, and it will be from many perspectives. I think it's also important at this stage to question the attitude that administrators of colleges and universities have towards gender relations on campus itself.
Yeah, on that point, a lot of people had written to me, parents, a while ago, that schools in Bengaluru which are co-ed have now separate staircases for boys and girls, right? And their concern was that their children are now not equipped to handle, interaction with the other gender as they're growing up. In classes, they are made to sit in two separate rows. They don't sit together with boys and girls. So eventually, when they go to college, then they won't know how to handle, even basic interactions, and that will kind of skew their entire life, was a concern. Many parents had reached out. But on the point of victim shaming that Ramya made, you remember even during the case that came to be known as Nirbhaya, there was an attempt at the beginning to ask questions about why was she there at late in the night in a bus with her boyfriend? Was he her boyfriend? Was he just a friend? Whatever is the case. I think public opinion plays a very important role in shutting these voices up. In Nirbhaya case, because there was an overwhelming outrage, these voices were shut up very early on in the case. And I think that's what is needed even here. If you feel that you're validated, you will continue asking these questions. Arjikar was separate because she was a doctor. She was getting rest. I remember even in the Hyderabad case, the wet case, initially they said, why was she there? Once they learned that she was there on work, then they kind of withdrew that attack kind of a tangent.
No, so women cannot go out in the night.
Unless it's
with,
for work,
yeah.
You can't step out. Only if it's an emergency work. Journalists also, I don't think will have sympathy.
So just to add to what Pooja is saying, the FIR also sort of employed that language, right? Which is the reason why the High Court has criticized the FIR itself, saying that what was the necessity to say all these things. Now, when that question was put to the Chennai Police Commissioner, Mr. Arun, he said that whatever the complainant has said, we put that down in the FIR. But Leena, you have any thoughts on the FIR and how it was worded?
Yes, shocking language used in the FIR, and they're taking the excuse that this was narrated by the victim, and so the survivor's language was what reflected. But luckily, I'm very happy to see the High Court come down heavily upon the language of the FIR and put it down there. Very rarely, that kind of interventions happen. I also, one thing that surprised me, Danya, here is we are quick to point out the fault of the survivor to be out at that time, but here we know this is a serial crime sheeter here on the opposite side. He has been previously accused, but where is the question to people who know him, the authorities of the college, the police authorities who should have put him behind the bar? So that kind of a question, like I'm thinking of Giselle Pellicot's campaign in France, where people said shame has to change sides. Where is the shame on the part of the government? Where is the shame on the part of the campus authorities for letting such a person loose on the campus, for letting this man, enabling this man to commit crime again and again? And whereas the news media and other conversations are all about the victim and where she was and what she was doing, how is the narrative been allowed to continue for so long? I'm remembered of Madhavi Kuti and Kamala Suraya. She was known towards the end of her life, whose literary work in Malayalam and English is very celebrated. And in my college days, I remember she coming out and saying in newspapers, on stages, like in her very own Palakaran slang, she would ask, "Kuttiyale onu kulicha tirudule idu." She would say that, kids, won't this just end with you getting a bath? Why should this be dragged on beyond that? So the, what is this victim blaming and shame that that is put on the survivor, who has bravely gone to the police and brought this case into attention, whereas I see no such victim blaming on the other part where it should be resting.
I just want to jump in because, Danya, you started saying that 2024 has been a year of good things and some not so good things. But I think one of the, signal moments of 2024 was the Giselle Pellico judgment. I think there is so much in there, and she is like an icon for the world today for women. And of course, like Leena said, I hope that, one shame will shift, but also, the way we approach victimhood itself will change, uh, perhaps in future. I mean, that's the hope that one has.
I think it could start with changing the mindset that if women don't behave a certain way, then there are certain liberties that can be taken, right?
On them.
On them.
Mm.
So and it comes, back to the fact that if it is unsafe for women to go, why are they heading out? Unless you absolutely have to. If you're a doctor and you're saving lives, maybe you can be out at night. But if you're just coming back from a friend's house, what is the need for it? Come back home before dark. Maybe it can start in all of our homes and then go out.
I think even with the police, right, Ramya, like I want to come back to you on what the police commissioner said, that they just very loyally reproduced what
How
the
many
complainant
times do they
said.
do that, Dhanya?
Yeah. So I want to first understand whether the police follow this all the time. And though we can't, of course, say there was a specific word which the FIR used also to describe the girl and her friend. So I think that change also has to come from the police. And what did you think about the police commissioner's version?
Yeah, I think, Danya, I think that's something significant. I've actually been very conflicted right from the time we actually saw the FIR, which was way ahead of, when these things broke out in the media. So I've been very conflicted about using all those terms, even if delivered by the victim herself in the FIR. I mean, is that the procedure to be followed? To me, it seems like a big violation, because you know that this information is going to go out. You yourself are sending it, either concealing the details or not concealing the details. You are sending it to reporters across. Is this level of detailing necessary? Or do we think of another process? Is there a possibility wherein we don't release the FIR, the police takes a conscious decision not to release the FIR per se, because clearly we cannot depend upon the sagacity of media houses themselves to not publish this. So is there a via media where the police can then selectively issue a précis form of what was in the FIR, leaving out the details if they think that it is essential for police procedure to record those details?
No, but
If
Ramya,
that's what has to go on the FIR.
no, but I sort of disagree with that. I'll tell you why. Because the police may or may not leak the FIR, maybe like a human error, technical glitch, whatever way the FIR comes out via the police, right? In that, like you're saying, let us say that the police tries to not give details or whatever. But the FIR can also come from the family.
Yeah.
In many instances, we do not get the FIR from the police, the media. When I say we, I mean the media. The media, in many cases, gets the FIR in sexual assault complaints from the victim's family, because the family wants to put out their version, right? So I think the onus has to completely rest on the media here, where if you get the FIR, you will not put out the identity of the survivor. And by identity, I don't mean just that you withhold the name, but you say everything else about the survivor. What is the point if you say, okay, she is the editor of the News Minute, and you don't put her name out? You know who the editor of the News Minute is. So I think that is a problem, that people think just withholding the name is enough. You can, like, for example, while we were editing our first story, Nandini Chandrasekhar, who's one of our editors, she told me that we should remove which class she's studying in and which course, because that again is an identifier, right? So when the reporter wrote it, she immediately removed it. So in none of our copies, and I think a lot of the newspapers also, the English newspapers that I read, they have not mentioned which class she's studying. That's very important, right? In POCSO, you cannot even say the locality they live in, their neighborhood, their class, school, nothing. So I think the onus has to be on the media.
I have another fear. When you give that kind of power to police to redact, this will be misused. This is another form of censorship, which you don't know. They may choose to withhold information in favor of, let's say, accused when they're powerful. So I think the onus, like you said, should be on media and book media houses when they go against.
Like in Prajwal Revanna's case, most of the FIRs came from the family or from activists who were working with the family, because it became very important to actually put that story out, right? It became really important that people know the details. And I also think that there's so much of thing about FIR, why did you put out? Because this man is supposed to have links with the ruling party, the DMK. There has been a lot of confusion regarding that. I just have one small thing to say, like, you can be a political party with 1 crore members or 2 crore members. You are not responsible for the behavior of each person. You cannot be like, I can't be responsible for 40 people who are working in the news minute, including Pooja. But the point is, once something comes out, you have to distance yourself from that person, saying that he's going to be kept out of the organization. I think this is what we repeatedly see, right? Schools, colleges, even if a teacher is accused of sexual assault, immediately they will think that it's the organization which stands at fault, right, Ramya?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I also agree with having the media accountable. I think it's time to do that. But how we do it, like in this case, some FIRs have been filed against media houses. I think that's good. They have to chase it to the logical conclusion. There has to be a deterrence from publishing these details on the public forum. So, yes, that. Yeah, and if, like you said, we can't be responsible for everyone who's on the team, particularly political parties who have vast cadre that they probably don't even keep count of. But if something like this comes to the notice of the management or the higher authorities in the party, the high level committees, then I think action should be taken against the offender, never mind who he is, what he is. In many cases, I remember cases of assaulting the wife, domestic violence. The husband has been removed from the political party. In some cases where there was scuffle over biryani, buying biryani, if there was a political party member involved, he was removed. There have been cases where this has happened. In this particular case, however, it's all very strange, because this guy, the accused so far in this case, Nyansekharan, is still languishing. I won't call it languishing. He's in hospital. He's not yet been jailed, because his hands and leg, he suffered some fractures as part of the, at least we got those visuals of him sitting in a car with his arm and leg bandaged. So he's still in hospital, is what we hear. That's the latest information. So why is action not being taken upon him? For me, this is a big, would it not have been taken upon someone else who was less connected, maybe? Would it not have been, if the police had managed to catch this offender within hours, as they claim? At least the announcement was made the next day, but he was identified in a ID parade the same evening. If so much alacrity could be followed while identifying the offender and apprehending him, what is the delay? I don't understand in following the due process of law from there. Is there some kind of protectionism happening here? We'll have to ask these questions.
I think these are the right questions, and media has to be responsible. Now, I also find it silly if you hold the party and the government responsible simply because he's a cadre. We shouldn't go by just what opposition says and say resign because he's your cadre, but ask these kind of right questions.
And not only that, though I said that a party or anybody cannot be responsible for everybody who works, the one thing that we can ask as the media is, did the fact that you are in power empower that person or make that person think that I can get away by doing anything, right? That's the message.
Set an example.
That's the message which a party or anybody should not give to people within their system, that you can commit crimes and we will then shield you. So one other problem I have is that there is a deliberate confusion being created that you cannot report on the FIR itself. So that is why we have gone and asked Justice Madan Lokur. Pooja is going to tell you what Justice Madan Lokur said. For those unaware, Justice Madan Lokur, a former retired Supreme Court judge, he is the one who penned the Nipun Saxena case judgment in 2018 along with Justice Deepak Gupta. This is a judgment in which the Supreme Court laid down very clear guidelines on FIRs not being made public, and even if it is, then the media should withhold the identity of the survivor.
Now, before I get into so the conversation with Justice Madan Lokur was had by Nidhi Suresh, and one thing I want to put on record here is that none of our reporters downloaded the FIR. right?
Now,
Nobody
even if
in-
they did, even if
they
others did.
Yeah, there are 3 other journalists from other news organizations who did, but nobody from TNM did that. That's number one. But this is what Nidhi asked Justice Madan Lokur, that in the Anna University rape case, the police uploaded the FIR on the site. It became publicly available by a view by a tech glitch or by human error, whichever is the case. Now, a few journalists did download it. Her question to him was, is downloading the FIR in itself a crime, which is what it's being made out to be. He says that he doesn't think downloading it, an FIR is a crime. But that said, in this case, you have to be careful in revealing the name, which is what we've been talking about, because that is an offense. And you can download the FIR and redact the name and the particulars if you're going to use that in your coverage. The second question was on if there is any ban or bar on such reporting based on FIRs in rape cases, is if the media houses does not give away the name or the identity of the survivor. He says there's no ban or any kind of bar, and also because FIR at the end of the day is a record of all the allegations made by either the informant or the complainant as well. Now that is the loophole they've also used. The third question that she asked is, many media houses did give away the name. How should they be punished? He says that first thing, there should be a public apology. It used to be an offense under the IPC, and I'm sure it is under the BNS as well.
It is an offense under the BNS, yeah.
And the authorities can take action by prosecuting the media houses, which is probably a first. But here in this case, if the police did, by whatever reason, did upload it, I think there should also be some sort of apology or even penalty for the police.
So BNS section 72 clearly says that the identity of the victim should not be disclosed. And also there are sections in the CRPC. The law is very clear, right? So Ramya, as a journalist who, of course, is in charge of so many reporters, a lot of our reporting is based on official documents, right? And that cannot be stopped. But how do we impress upon the media itself? And this is not the first time. So many times we have said, do not put out details, do not put out details. What in your mind can be a solution for this?
Before Ramya, before you come in there, can I just say this? The unethical reporting of the media is one big issue in this. But let's not forgive the state for putting out the whole FIR in public domain without redacting the things that should have been redacted. There is a clear duty on the part of the state to not put out in public domain anything that is an identifier of the survivor. So when it has abdicated its duty and it expect all the media, maybe major media news houses does give gender sensitization, like TNM would know what to put out and would not put out. There are so many other small media organizations who wouldn't have these kind of training. And in a recent case in Kerala, when somebody put out an identifier and I called up the news report, they were not very aware that, they were not so well trained. Sometimes they are running on a small scale budget and they wouldn't have the information. So state cannot wash its hands off here, because they are the first accused here on how the identity has gone out, and also the victim blaming language, which I think Adanya is there in the FIR itself. So they cannot wash off their hands on that victim blaming language too. So while the media has a responsibility to put due diligence when it's reporting these things, the state's failure is very clear and evident on the face of it. Just that point before, yeah, Ramya, your comment.
So my question is that, okay, we are placing the blame on the media, and rightly so. But assuming that this was made public and somebody picked it up on social media and spread it, so the state, like Leena said, should be first held responsible, isn't it?
No, there are so many cases, right, where social media will take up justice for a woman and they will just put out the picture. I also want to add, I was reading the Nipun Saxena judgment where they suggested that the police can start giving not giving the real names, but use a pseudonym for the victim itself. But that I don't think the police follow anywhere.
Leena, let me also add one question, since I'm the only one who's not asked you a question yet. So the thing is that how significant is an FIR to the entire legal process itself? Because in this case, the commissioner has gone on record saying that this is the voice of the victim, and we have recorded it as it is. So is it important to record the finer details in the FIR itself, or is it a part of the later process of law that kicks in?
FIR, as we know, is the first information report, and the first thing that we have to kickstart an investigation into the process. So while the whole narrative of the victim has to find a place accurately in the FIR, I believe that we cannot in any way tell the victim not to withhold any part of the information. But if the language is victim blaming, I think it is not the language of the survivor, but it's a police language. We often know how these FIRs are filed inside police rooms, and how what are the practices that they adopt. So I don't think any survivor would use a victim blaming language on herself, on their self. Um, but yeah, redacting any part on an FIR while it's being lodged to withhold any part is not something that, from my experience as in the public prosecutor's role, I wouldn't recommend that at all. It should be an honest and pack in as much information as possible to direct it to and then of course later the statements can be added, investigation reports can be added, and all sort of things can be added on top of that. But often, one of the strongest document used while prosecuting a case is the FIR itself, and then the second comes the charge sheet. So, but in many FIRs we have seen when it has become a public document, the police have redacted portions of it. The state has redacted portions of it and put it up where FIR should not be withheld from media in any case. I believe that it's an important, vital piece of information for media to do the kind of reporting it should be done. So I'm not in favor of FIRs being withheld, but to identifiers that reveal the identity of the survivor, or that hampers the investigation if the culprit is not nabbed, if there is clear cut information on where he can be found, or any identifier of the culprit that the police is in lookout for. Of course, those things can be withheld from the public for a certain amount of time. That will aid the investigation process, and state cannot be forgiven for being so careless about putting those things in the public domain.
No, I think that's where it's confusing, right? For example, in the Bishop Franco case, I mean, I'm just taking this out of memory. I could be wrong in certain details, but one reason why the judgment acquitted Bishop Franco, or Franco as we can call him, is that it said when the FIR was lodged, the nun did not exactly use the word rape. She said sexual harassment, because in that case the judge said, why did you not say in the complaint which later became the FIR that it was actually a rape? So it's a nun. She found it very difficult to speak about what really happened to her, and it was only much later that she could even tell the police, what is the kind of atrocity which was done on her. Initially she was just saying harassment. So I understand the predicament of the police also in one sense, because if you do not have everything in the FIR, there could be a magistrate or a judge who holds that responsible and brings the whole case down.
But could I just add, the police, now anybody who goes to file a complaint is not fully aware of how to communicate this across. One, the person is traumatized. Two, not aware of the legal terms. The police has the job of trying to understand and use the right terms
and
in the
use
FIR.
a legal officer
Exactly.
for advising also, which
the
they do not.
sections could have been still applied, right?
Yeah. Okay, so that I think brings us to an end of the first discussion, which is on the Anna University sexual assault, and we'll move on to our second topic of the day.
But before we look into the second topic, Dhanya, you told our viewers and audience what exactly their subscription has powered, right? And it's quite a bit. Though I'm saying it myself, I'm like impressed with the kind of work we've put together. But if you're not a subscriber, then this is a great time, because we talk about what change we can build in. Every month you can just spend as much as you'd spend on 2 or 3 cans of beer, depending on what brand you drink, because a monthly subscription.
Can of what?
Beer.
Beer. Oh,
yeah, we're still in the New Year phase. So
Okay.
just about 2 or 3 cans of beer, or maybe 2 coffees at best. And our monthly subscription is just $500. So if you're somebody who cannot take up annual subscription, then we have monthly ones as well. We also have offers every now and then. You can look for that and take up a subscription. But yeah, let's go to the second one, Dhanya.
Okay, so second topic is about the death sentence handed over to Nimisha Priya in Yemen. Nimisha Priya is a nurse. She hails from Palakkad district of Kerala, and she was sentenced to death in Yemen for killing a citizen of Yemen. His name is Talal Mehdi. Yemeni President Rashad al-Alimi has approved her death sentence. Now, this approval has come as a huge shock, because there is an action council and there are several groups who have been working to ensure that her death penalty is annulled and she can be sent back. Joining us today is Mr. Babu John. He's in fact part of the Save Nimisha Priya Action Council. He was someone who lived in Yemen for almost 2 decades. He's been part of several negotiation teams. Thank you, Mr. Babu John, for joining us at the News Minute.
Yeah, thank you, Dania, for calling me for this discussion and heading this, this issue from the beginning.
So I just want to say that in 2020 was when I was approached by a few people saying that can you all cover the Nimisha Priya case, because from 2017 Malayalam media had been covering it quite well. In 2020 I was asked that can you please come in and cover this. At that time the trial court had already given her a death sentence and the appeal court was hearing her case. So from the time the case was in the appeal court, I had been trying to reach Nimisha Priya. She had a phone in her Yemeni prison cell. Only after the appeal court actually said yes to the death sentence could I finally manage to speak to Nimisha Priya. I still remember it was in 2020 August. We spoke to her first, and she narrated her entire story. The reason why they had actually approached us is because by then a lot of Malayalam media was reporting that a Indian woman kills her Yemeni husband and therefore she gets death penalty. So for a lot of people it's like, oh, she has killed him, so why can't she get the death penalty? So we were asked to put out her version of the story as to what really happened. So this is a woman who goes from Kerala along with her husband to Yemen. It's a very difficult country to be in, but imagine they do offer better perks, better salary, which is why a lot of people do end up going to these countries. So Nimisha Priya was there along with her husband. Her husband and child had to come back because they did not have enough money. In 2015-16, Nimisha Priya decides that she has enough experience. She should start a new small clinic, which is when she goes to this Talal Mehdi, someone the family knew. Because in Yemen, to start any business, you have to have a Yemenis partner. So this man said he will partner with her. But eventually, what Nimisha told me is that she did not need his partnership because another man came forward and they started the clinic with him. I remember she sent me the picture of her clinic then. But what happened without their knowledge is that this Talal Mehdi also registered himself as a partner. The documents were in different languages. Nimisha Priya did not understand. And this guy was a friend, so he would come to the clinic all the time. But soon he became abusive. He started taking her money. He started physically assaulting her, sexually assaulting her. He even took her passport and he sort of kept her in his house. That is when she got advice from somebody that give him a sedative, when he's sleeping, you take your passport and you run away. So, what she told me is that she gave him one shot of sedative, but it did not work on him because he was already high on drugs, which is when she used a second shot of sedative, and that unfortunately killed him. So, another nurse who was there along with her chopped the body. She's also a co-accused in this case, and she got life imprisonment. And they dumped it. So that's the case against Nimisha Priya. But for many years, the Action Council, Mr. Babu John, has been working to get her pardon. What my first question to you is, what are the options now before us? Because you all have been trying to talk to the tribes there, right? What are the options before us now?
Yeah, thank you, Danya. Before answering your direct question, I would like to express my all gratitude to you because you are the one first approached me through one of your reporters, I think Neetu from Cochin.
Yes.
She told me in 2020 August 19th. I remember the dates. She told me there was a case like this, and Danya wanted to speak to you. So that is how I also came to know, because I left Yemen in 2015 during the war after saving, hundreds of people. More than 200 people were staying with me in those days, March 27 to April 9, 2015. And, I was participating in the evacuation, process that was headed by Indian government. So that time Nimisha was there. She didn't come back with us because she spent a lot of money, more than 50 lakh rupees, to start this business as a clinic. Then, when Dhanya and team informed me about it, I was already that time in Dubai. And then I also approached on my way to contact Nimisha in jail, and there is one Samuel Jerome, a person from Tamil Nadu. He's already there working in an airlines. I approached him, and that's how I came to the picture. and by that August 2020, by 23, 24, like that, after a week, within a week, uh, I ended up in communicating with several friends of mine across the world. Then we constituted the International Action Council, having around more than 80 people. And the first meeting was held in September 3rd of 2020 to say Nimisha Priya. That is the beginning of the story. Now I'll come. Thanks, Dhanya, for taking initiative to this mission. I always remember and tell everybody that this is Dhanya who approached me or took this incident to my consideration, and we forwarded from there. Now, coming back to your direct question, now what we can do, right? Now what we can do, being the president of Yemen, put signature for consent of the execution within 1 month time. Still, we have a hope that if India government, everything is with India government. If India government strictly involved in this immediately, we can have a hope of saving Nimisha again. Because as per the Sharia law, which is prevailed in Yemen, the law admits and allow the sentenced person to be free if the family pardon him or her. So now we are approaching from 2020 itself. We knew that going to the court is not going to make a difference, but it was a buying time for us. So from 2020 to now it's 25, Nimisha is living even in the jail because of our group efforts. And we were asking the government of India to appoint a lawyer because of Nimisha was not getting legal aid during her trial. So that we have succeeded to pursue the Indian government to appoint a lawyer, Yemeni lawyer, and that lawyer filed a appeal petition in the Supreme Court of Yemen, and that was going on until last year. And the Supreme Court also approved the lower court's verdicts, and that is how it all happened, which was expected because the Yemen things are happening in a way that half the judicial side and half the tribal side. So we were, compelled to deal with tribal people as well as the law. So we, now the law failed in front of us to save Nimisha. Only way is to approach the family to ask for a pardon, and for that pardon also, if family want, they can ask for a diya money, that is blood money. And we as the Action Council promised and taking the responsibility fully of, providing or paying the blood money, whatever they ask. And for that, we have collected the people, and we have got promises from many of the people, including industrials like M.A. Yusuf Ali, that Lulu Group, and the previous Chief Minister of Kerala, Manjandi, was also, helped us in doing that. And the government and the MPs, MLAs, all political parties, verbally we are speaking, they were all supporting. Now, again, come back to the situation as we are facing now. 30th of December, this approval from the Yemen government for executing her came as a shock, as Dhanya said. And we were not expecting that, that may come this point of time, but anytime it can happen. Like, for example, I always wanted to compare with the Yemen situation with other country situations in a special manner. People who are involved and whom we were speaking is always comparing with the situation easily like in a democratic country or even in Saudi Arabia with Yemen. It is not that. It is not that. There is, there is not a government actually. The ruling government now, where Nimisha is held now, is a rebel government supported by Iran. It is having a lot of political issues. You all as all you must be knowing. This is a this is a war happening between Saudi and Iran. Yemeni people are scapegoats. Actually speaking, this Houthi government is supported by Iran, and because of that, this Houthi government is not recognized by any of the countries in the world. So we, not only us, Indian government, not any country is having any diplomatical or bilateral relations with the Yemeni government to speak with. That is where we wanted the government of India to involve uh, from the behind the scenes. When I say unofficially, in diplomatic ways, it is not unofficially. They have to involve with the Yemen government and Yemen president and Al Houthi regime, and with the tribal leaders to stop this execution, since we are not asking anything illegal. We are asking whatever is within the purview of the Sharia law, where we can, request the family to pardon even with the blood money.
So, but just a quick question. Great points that you've been making, but just for clarity, have we managed to talk to Mr. Mehdi's family there in Yemen? Is the council in touch with them?
Yes, the mediators in Yemen could speak to the family, many times, few times. I cannot reveal the names and details of the discussions. And we got a positive note from the family and tribal people that they are ready to, they are willing to discuss. That is why all these 4 years, Nimsha is not executed. Nimisha is leaving because of that. Otherwise, the execution would have happened in 2020 itself. Because if the family pressurized the court or the government, it could have happened any time. So this is a green signal to us, and there was a dialogue also happened many times, that things are in positive side in favor of discussion. But one thing was, made them upset in Yemen, the family and the community, is about the, media reports what was happening in India. Whatever we are speaking, whatever the cruelties, imposed on Nimisha, and for us, we have to tell the truth. And in media and everywhere, it is published, and that family was taking it as a abuse on them. So one side, we are approaching the family and Yemeni people asking a pardon. At the other side, we are accusing them. So this two will not go together. So we, as in International Action, Save Nimisha Priya International Action Council, was trying to approach in a balanced state that Dhanya also knows. Many times I was discussing with her about this whenever we give the report. So these reports were, upsetting them. They were telling in the meeting several times, even though they are ready to have a discussion.
No, I remember this in 2020, like I said, when I first wrote about it. There was a whole discussion as to should we talk about Talal Mehdi and what he did. But at that time, it was important to write that because it was being, in the Indian media, she was being portrayed as a woman who just killed her Yemeni husband for money. So our intervention had to happen at that time to say that no, this was also a cruel man. But beyond that, he's saying if we keep reporting it, that becomes confusing. Leena, you want to say something?
No, Danya, there are many things that complicate this case. I don't know how much the public is aware of, but as Mr. Babujan has put here, there is a stronghold of the tribal culture of a destabilized government that is not a democratic government, a judicial system that partly counts on the family's response to this crime and all of that. That complicates sort of the work the Indian authorities have to do here. But I've also, from what I've understood about the case, there have been people who have been later accused of other crimes and been already executed by the Yemeni government. But the fact that they've held on to the Nimisha Priya for this long itself shows that there is something happening there from the authority side that is also in favor for her. There has been people who have been running the campaign in her favor, who's been telling us that though there has been no pardoning from the family or confirmation to a blood money amount, it itself shows that the family has not pressurized for the death penalty, the execution to happen. That shows that there is some positive signal there. So there are so many things that shows us there is some hope in Nimisha Priya's case. But even then, there is a far more ground to be covered that the Indian government has to step in and do fast to enable that she's not executed in the time. The unfortunate reality of women who are being abused across the world.
In fact, in Nimisha Priya's case, she went to the police twice. She went first saying that this man was assaulting and that he had faked a marriage certificate. Second time, she was jailed along with him. In fact, I remember asking her again, were you jailed? She said, yes, I was jailed for even filing that complaint.
Wow.
Yeah. Ramya, I just want to, just little bit of a deviation from this, and we'll come to Mr. Babu John. One comment that I've been noticing across is, why did she go to Yemen? Why do these people go to Yemen and get stuck, right? That is one thing. And second, you must have reported yourself on cases like this where blood money is involved. Do you think the Indian government also holds back a bit? Though Mr. Babu John is not criticizing the government at all, and I understand his predicament, there are a lot of other people who have been going on TV channels saying that the Indian government has not done what it should and what it could have.
Yeah, Danya. I think the question of why women go abroad to earn is, I think, is just absurd. If you look at if you look simply at Kerala's foreign return, just the amounts, it's very clear that that state makes its money abroad. So there is no point in questioning why did she go. Are there enough opportunities? These are not questions that we ask today. This has been going on for the last 30 years, if not for more, in a very, very organized manner. So we had the goat life recently. Adajivitam was another sort of exploitation. It's a story of exploitation of immigrants. So I think like Mr. Babu was saying, that you had an important role in demystifying this whole story and putting it in the context of an immigrant situation. It's not the same as a citizen situation. She is an immigrant and she's a woman, and therefore it's not a level playing field. It definitely is loaded against the woman, the victim in this case. Of course, yes, there was a murder, and one is not condoning the murder, but one reads the circumstances of her life into her story. I think that's very important. And yes, in this case, I think Indian government must, take a bolder step. It's possible, I think, with intervention. Today, India is a world leader. There are nations that listen to India and that are paying attention to what this nation is saying. And I think we must use our increasing clout in the world, perhaps, to bring our might to this case and probably get some relief for Nimisha Priya.
We know that even though with some of the reporting we have tried to clear the public perception regarding this case, but Indian government will definitely look at what the narrative in the minds of the people are, that it doesn't want to be seen as playing into the hands of a narrative that doesn't work in its favor. So I think increased media reporting and attention to clearly outline what the Nimisha Priya case is and how she was a victim of her circumstances is very important, and that continued reporting and sustained pressure by the media is very important for the Indian government to make the right intervention at the right time in this case.
As you are discussing, this is not only because of she is a female. The question here, how the Indian governments like Indian government is interfering for an individual case. Okay, especially what I look at this Nimisha's case in a little bit different angle. She is a victim of war. Okay, her husband and child was living peacefully in Yemen, making money or trying to make money, and suddenly the war came. Okay, in 2015 January, she went back from Kerala after purchasing the equipments for the clinic, and her husband stayed back saying that I will follow you after a month. And she reached in January and started the clinic. by her own and with the help of this same Talal. Okay, whatever the differences and all, keep it apart, but they started the clinic. And I was there that time, and we all were thinking that the war will end in 1 week time. That was the propaganda, or that was what people were thinking. So when they started the war and it was not ending, then the atrocities of Talal started, because she was trapped there. We cannot blame her, or we can, the blame, the ultimate blame, if it is anybody to be blamed, is the war. Okay, then Talal, his habits, or of course, there was always, everywhere in the world there is atrocities over women, and it is not addressed properly. And for the government, I criticize the government, and we had big fight with the government even during that Yemen evacuation during the war. I was totally about to be arrested, because I was stopping that General VK Singh that time. For taking the people from Yemen from the war area. So but at the same time, we cannot stop saying that government of India was doing certain things which was helpful. But my opinion is that that is not enough. As a government, like if we compare with the American government and all, if an American citizen is trapped like this in anywhere in the world, they will come with all the force and take them out, no, by all means. And India also did it. You remember, one of that Christian preach, that pastor, Tom Ulnaden, his name. He was, captured by the terrorist group in Yemen itself in 2015, and the India government involved, Vatican involved, and they got, they released him. How that happened? The same situation. Why it is happened? Because there was a religious group behind. Here in Nimisha's case is not only a poor lady, but there is no powerful teams or groups behind her. If she belongs to a big religious group, whether it is Hindu, Christian, or Muslim, she will be backed up properly. And in our country, the problem is that it is all segmented. So if you don't have a support, if you are not from the minister's family, if you are not from the that cult or group, you will not get proper support. That's where we came into the picture. And our fight is against for telling the government and the people of India that our co-citizen, one of our co-citizens, is stranded where there is a war situation, and she had gone through all the brutal activities, and how our government should behave to save her. If the government want, they can approach the local tribal leaders through many ways, and I can show them what is the we can show them what is the ways to to reach them, and it will be happening. But there is not that much of intervention there happening, that not that much of interest is happening. When there is a pressure from the public and media and all, yes, government did certain things for sure. Without government doing, we cannot do anything. We will not have reached this position.
But Mr. Babujan, I have one doubt. This is a very simple doubt. There was $20,000 which was given to the lawyer for the first pre-negotiation. There is a lot of confusion that the second tranche of $20,000 were not given, because there was confusion as to whether the lawyer was really in touch with the tribes. What was the result of the first $20,000? Is there such a confusion in the council? And if that second tranche had been given, would things have been better?
The second thing about the payment of $20,000 to the lawyer. The lawyer is appointed by the government of India through embassy. Okay, we as Action Council don't have any part in appointing the lawyer. Or we asked the government to appoint a lawyer. Government appointed a lawyer from Yemen, and lawyer's condition was that he will try his best to get the thing sorted out, provided he need to get $40,000. That is in part. He will accept the $20,000 in phase 1, and if the phase 1 succeeds, then he will ask for another $20,000. That was a condition in June 2024. So we have transferred $20,000 to the MEA, Ministry of External Affairs account in Delhi, and Delhi transferred the money to Yemen embassy, and Yemen embassy transferred the money to the lawyer, $20,000 in June. And after that, the negotiation, all the process has happened. How we can witness that is happened, lawyer was not directly communicating with us, but Samuel Jerome, who is the power of attorney holder of the mother of Nimisha's mother. Now, by the way, I wanted to tell you that this Samuel Jerome and Nimisha's mother is already in Yemen. So he was attending, the Samuel Jerome was attending the meetings, and he was witnessing that the meeting has happened, and the meeting has happened with the tribal leaders plus the family related people, and there was a green signal from there also. So after the first phase of meetings, lawyer was asking the second part, $20,000 to the embassy. That we took a stand that from the beginning that we will pay the money through the embassy only. After consulting with the lawyer and the embassy, we need to get an approval or a requirement from embassy. That delayed in beginning. We know that lawyer asked the embassy, but we didn't get a formal approval from embassy from the transfer of money. Even though the time was passing out, then in December, we ourselves as the council asked the embassy and MEA that, okay, we are ready with the money, 20,000, another 20,000, shall we transfer it? Again, we didn't get a reply from the government, but still on 27th of December, we transferred the money after speaking verbally to the MEA authorities, and MEA authorities gave a reply saying that, okay, you can transfer the money. So we transferred the money on 27th. Up to that time, everything was going, I'm not saying well, but everything was on the way. The negotiation and the lawyer's part and everything was going on the way. But December 30th, this order was signed by the president of Yemen, unexpectedly. That was what happened. So what I wanted to tell that this money of 20,000 didn't make that much difference of making a decision from the president of Yemen. Like if we give a memorandum to the president of India, who knows when he or she is going to sign the memorandum or take a decision. Even the Prime Minister of India will not be knowing what time the president of India will be taking the decision. So this is what happened now actually.
Okay. Thank you for that, Mr. Babu John. So imagine it's actually the people who are collecting this money and giving it to the MEA to be paid to the lawyer. Any final closing thoughts, Ramya, and then Leena?
Yeah, Danya, I think, in this case, it's the story of a poor migrant. So, sometime back, some years ago, this US based basketballer, Brittany Griner, was arrested in Russia with with a stash of cocaine. And she was sent to, it was medical marijuana. She claimed it was medical marijuana because she had sustained a lot of injuries as a result of playing. And so it was in her luggage when she went to Russia. And then she was detained at the airport and then, put in prison. So she was incarcerated for about 290 days or so. But then the US government, which does not really negotiated with the Russian government to released her in a prisoner exchange program. So they released Victor Bout in exchange for Brittany. So is it poverty? Is it a case of being a poor immigrant left to your own resources that will make governments drag their feet on this? I think, these are the questions that we have to ask. Like Leena said, there has been a lot of public momentum in this case. More recently, even the channels have been talking about this relentlessly. Maybe because the judgment has come and the day is close by. But I think, if the government of India can do something more in order to give her a lenient punishment or to relieve her from the death sentence, I think the time is now.
Leena?
Yeah, I just hope that the government does solid steps in getting in furthering this conversation and getting her some relief, because she has already spent so much time in the prison, trying to understand what fate waits her, and I hope that all of that comes to play to save her from an execution.
Yeah, so time is running out for Nimisha Priya, a spirited woman, who wanted to make her career, further it, and she herself was actually reaching out to the media, everyone, to explain what is happening to her. So I really hope that the government does intervene maximum and gets her out. Thank you, everyone. But before we wrap up, we will go to the recommendations. Ramya, what is your recommendation for the week?
Okay, so I've been reading a lot of coincidentally, I didn't fix this. It just happened like that. But I've been reading a lot of books from authors from the South. I read Sanjay Subramaniam's On That Note, which is a very interesting, at least for me, who's been following the Carnatic music scene quite closely. It's a nice insight into, also given the cultural and social context of today, it's very interesting insight into the world of Carnatic music and how it functions. And then the other one that I am reading is this translation of M. Mukundan. It's You. It's translated by Nandakumar K. And it's like a Bildungsroman which talks about the growth of this man, but also deep insight into something that was really unexpected. It was a deep insight. It contains a very deep insight into euthanasia. That's a subject that I've been interested in. So that's it. On that note, and you.
Yeah. Leena, wasn't M. Mugundan at the Wayanad Lit Fest? And what is your recommendation?
Yes, he was. He was, and he released our 2022 Wayanad Litfest souvenir, that recorded all the great conversation that happened at the 2022 WLF. And my recommendation is going to be a work from another writer who was also there at the Wayanad Litfest, which is Benjamin, whose Art Jeevitham was recently also made into a movie and got a lot of public attention. Not a great fan of the movie, but I think it just highlights the immigrant, that ends up scapegoat in systems that they cannot escape, and I think it's an important part to the conversation we are having here. And it's unfortunate that a state like Kerala cannot retrieve or find employment for the best of its talents, and its whole economy is built on the hard work of the people who migrate to the Gulf countries, but when they land in trouble, there is very little that we can do to save them. It is these stories of hope, that I just wanted to show here, and Adajividam is my recommendation for this week.
Mr. Babujan, don't say you're also recommending Aadu Jeevitham.
No, 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 no. Adu Jeevitham, I can have, I have a different opinion about Adu Jeevitham. I'm not telling about it now.
Okay.
I didn't see positively, that's a needed film in that way. Okay. Second thing, I wanted to tell you that I am a person living with a scientific temper, and I wanted to live in a community where there is no divisions of religions, especially all these religion divisions, and the wrong beliefs. Okay. What I mean to say, all the what you call planned organized crimes all over the world, one part is I can see religion. So why we cannot live without the religion effects, so with the scientific temper, I used to listen to one physics professor speech from Kerala. His name is Vaishakan Thampi. Maybe Dhanya may be knowing his name, or I don't know. Vaishakan Thampi, and a group called Essence. I'm not a
Yes.
follower or a part of Essence, but this Vaishakan Thampi especially good to listen and to understand the scientific things behind most of all the doubts, behind how and why we are manipulated, why we are manipulated by the community around us. It's a going around circle. but we have to come out of it. And I wish to live there. I am saying I wish to live there. I am living with my family like that. We don't have religion. My children don't have religion. Not practicing, and we wanted to live like that as far as possible, helping others around.
Pooja, what is your recommendation?
I want to recommend Seen and Unseen, episode 283 of Vinay Sitapati.
Seen and Unseen is Amit
Verma's podcast. Slightly longish. But
what is this? You're sitting in a podcast and recommending another podcast. Do you know how long that podcast is?
Yeah, but listen to it on 2x like I do. But the reason I'm recommending this, it's about the forgotten greatness of P.V. Narasimha Rao. And BRS, as well as the Telangana government, Congress government, they've been asking for a memorial and all Bharat Ratna to P.V. Narasimha Rao. I thought it's a good time to listen to what he's done.
So about Essence, which Mr. Babu John was talking, we have written a lot about it. And there's been a sort of split also in Essence. So do read some of our stories. I mean, there's a right-wing entry also into Essence.
Correct.
It's a huge community.
That is why I'm saying I'm not part of that.
Yeah. Okay, so my recommendation is actually an article which Ramya sent me a few days ago. It's called The Unfathomable Betrayal of Giselle Pellico. It's on The Cut. It's the website called The Cut. It's an amazing article. Please try to read it. So that's all with recommendations and the first episode of South Central in 2025. Me and Pooja have already told you, start your year by not whining or complaining about the state of media. Start supporting independent media. And remember, we are going to have one subscriber in the studio this month. So write to me at southcentral@thenewsminute.com. Tell me what you want to speak about and you can join us here at the podcast. Thank you, Ramya. Thank you, Leena, Mr. Babu John. Thank you, Pooja. Speaking less this time. We will make it up next time by having a political topic of Pooja's interest. Thank you to my producer Bhuvan, editor Jasim, Megha, Ajay, Vignesh, and all the others involved.